Hello, hello. So good afternoon, good morning, good evening, maybe, wherever you are in the world. Hello, Kelly. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. This is a great moment that I've been waiting for. I always thought that I would at one point in my life be part of a book, an author. Hey, Mary. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I never knew how it would happen. And Kaylee, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because when I joined the group, I honestly joined because of Linda. Linda's like, Shiri, you got to be part of this. Yeah, I'm like, okay. I had no idea what I was getting myself into it. And that's pretty consistent of my life. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, me making decisions kind of like on the go, not knowing, but going with my gut feel. And I didn't know why I had joined this incredible group of women. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I didn't know what I was going to write about. I literally went in blind because of the trust that I had in Linda, and because of the great things that I had heard about Kaylee. So I knew that I was in good hands. I knew that I was getting myself into something exciting. I just didn't know exactly what was going to happen. And it was one of the best decisions that I've made in my life. And not only because I got to be part of this incredible group of women, because everything that I personally do in my life is about my associations. And I've been able to expand it even further just by being part of this group. It's amazing, the law of association, right? I didn't do much. I just wrote 3,000 words when you think about it, like really, right? But that gave me access to some incredible knowledge, support, motivation. But most importantly, it allowed me to go through the journey that I needed to go through. And yes, I did, guys, because I, like many of you, have heard things throughout my life, and I just never stopped to think about it and contemplate. And I sat down a few times with Kaylee, and she literally held my hand through this process of, okay, Kaylee, I don't know what I'm going to write about, but let me tell you, this is what I keep hearing. And one of the things that I kept hearing over and over and over and over again in my life, and I heard Terry actually alluded to that yesterday, like, how do you do everything that you do? How are you able to maintain that constant stage or state of flow, right? Of movement, of motivation. And it's not because I'm Wonder Woman. I do call myself that to my kids, and you know, they seem to believe it, and that's cool. But this journey, and through the conversations with myself, through the guidance that I received from Kelly and other women here, I landed at this concept of emotional freedom. And I remember the minute it happened, I literally, I was sitting on my desk, like, shit, that's what it is. It's emotional freedom. Because I kept going back to freedom, but freedom is like freedom, like Nelson Mandela. Like, I'm not Nelson Mandela. It's not free. It's emotional freedom. Great. Now I have to dissect what that means and how or what I have done throughout my life that had allowed me or has allowed me to live in that constant state of emotional freedom. And so before I get into that, let me just tell you a little bit about myself, because we haven't met. I haven't met all of you. So I am originally from Peru, moved to Israel when I was 14, lived there until I finished the army. And then I came to Toronto, Canada, where I've lived most of my life, really 27 years. I met my husband here in university. I have 4 children. So I always joke, and it's in my bio, I'm a mother of 4 and a wife of 1. So in my career, I started like most of you here. I was an employee. I got into the corporate world, advertising. My last 10 years spent at Coca-Cola working as a marketing executive. And I always knew that I was going to leave that world to be home with my children. That's something that I felt in my core. I knew that that was my calling, to be able to be here with them when they're older. I know that many women, men, they do it when they're younger. To me, when they're young, they're on remote control. Where are they going? You know where they are, you know what they're doing. But when they're older, physically, psychologically, emotionally, I thought that that's when I wanted to be home. And so everything kind of just took me to that moment, like everything in my life, really. And a decade ago, I got the opportunity to take a package. I was actually working part-time after my fourth child was born. I went back part-time and I took the package. I said, great. I had already done my certification as a coach, as a business consultant. And that's where my journey as an entrepreneur started. And I've been consulting, I've been coaching, but lately I have my own business where I provide different services. Right now, it's all about healthcare in the US, helping people save money on healthcare, which I'm very passionate about. I'm a real estate investor. I am a professor. I teach at 3 different colleges here in Toronto. What else? Am I missing something? I am working actually on a big business project with my children. And it's funny, yesterday I gave my husband something to read that I was, and my bio actually, and he said, wow, you really do a lot of things. Not that he didn't know, but I do. So hence the idea of talking about what allows me to do so many different things. And I want to take you first to 3 defining moments in my life, because I've been able to explore this further. So in my chapter, I talk about the mantras that allow me to have emotional freedom. And I will just summarize those briefly. But I am going to walk you through those 3 core moments. And they say that there's usually 3 events in during childhood. So early childhood, mid-childhood, and your teenage years, that usually those are the times that define you, right? Or better yet, that you choose to be defined as. So the first moment was, I think I was in grade 2, and I was the boss. I was the boss. And then comes this other girl who thinks she's the boss. And then, wait a minute, what is going on here, right? And I remember the conversation with my mom to say, hey, you know what? She thinks she's the boss, but hey, I've been running things here. So what's happening? And my mom gave me this great advice. She said, join forces with her. So I decided in that moment that I needed to join forces. I think it was my early moments of networking, right? Because I am a master networker. And so I think that was my first notion of, oh yeah, I need to network. But even more important than that, it was the idea that I told myself, I won't be defeated. And I remember that clearly, right? Then there was another moment when I was 14, almost 14, and my parents decide to move to Israel. Whole new country. I'm 14, a 14-year-old girl. Enough said, yes? And so in that moment, I decided that I need to make friends. Like I need to be part of something and someone bigger than just me, because I was not going to be alone. So again, that thing of surrounding myself with friends and finding friends and be that person that attracts people to her. And then the third event was when my parents, after 3 years of being in Israel, they decide we're moving to Toronto, Canada. And in that moment, I decided I am not. And I was very clear about that. I'm very lucky that my mom allowed me to stay. I was 17, my last year of high school, I stayed by myself. So in that moment, I defined myself as independent, as self-reliant. And that's who I have been throughout my life. And rather than thinking of those moments as, moments of difficult moments, there have been defining moments. And they have allowed me to explore this concept of who I am and understand that in anything that I do, in any situation that I'm in, I have the choice. And this is how I define emotional freedom. It is the ability to create what I want. It is that in any situation, I have the freedom to choose how I react, what I do, where I go, what I say, how I think. And it is living in an abundant state where I know that I'm truly free. And it is really that understanding that I don't need that permission slip. And many of us live in that state where waiting for that permission slip. And Kaylee, you and I had this conversation, right? That permission slip. What the heck? Right? I mean, grown-up women, grown-up people, and we're still waiting for that permission slip. So that's how I see emotional freedom. This is why I start with the first mantra of when you're clear about your values. So strong values produce clear choices. And that's the first part in my chapter, where if you are clear about your values, what's important to you in your life, very, very clear. And I talk about some tools of how you can actually sit down with yourself and understand what are those values. Because when you're clear about what's important to you, it actually makes it easier for you to make decisions, right? And more often than not, it's going to be the right choices. And here's what I want you to understand. When we make a decision, when we make the right choice, it is the right choice for us, nobody else. Because if we're making the right choice for someone else, then we're still looking for that permission slip. It's the right choice for us. And I'm just going to give you an example. And this is like an everyday example. So let's say your mother-in-law invites you to have lunch. Yes, with the whole family. And it's a Saturday and it's a beautiful day. And guys, I live in Toronto and we get, only so many beautiful days. But your mother-in-law, she really wants you to go over to her house and have lunch with them in the middle of the day. Well, my first instinct is like, no way. Like, we're taking the kids, we're going out. But one core value of mine is family, right? And in that family lies my husband. And I know that one of his core values is his family and his parents. And so the decision always was easier for me to say, yes, let's go out for lunch, because that's what's important. And the value of fun with my children will just get that second place at that moment, right? So we're always faced with these decisions, but when we're clear about our values, the decisions that we make, how we make them, are going to be easy. And better yet, we're going to be able to make decisions faster. How many times have you been in situations where you've been sitting on that fence, not making a decision, and you're getting shot from both sides? That's the worst situation to be in, where you're not making that decision. And one of the reasons, and I invite you to think about it, that one of the reasons that you're probably not making a decision is because you're not clear about that, or your values, what is important to you in that moment. Because if you are, let me tell you, you're going to be making decisions like that. And guess what's going to happen? You're not going to miss out on opportunities. Think about a time where you have missed an opportunity, and it's probably been because you lack the ability to make a decision fast. And I do talk more about that in my chapter. Share this helping me. Values have changed. Yes, Kaylee. Yeah. And values do change, right? That's the thing. Values change. That's what's so great about it. I mean, the values that I had when I was 17 are not the same values as the values I have now. The values I had 10 years ago are definitely not the same values that I have now. So my suggestion to you, evaluate those values at least once a year, And I talk about that in my chapter a little bit more about how to do that. The second mantra is what I call feel it into the future. Okay, feel it into the future. So some of the most important decisions that I've made in my life has been by looking a few years ahead and digging into how I would feel if I didn't do something. Would I regret it? Now, meditating, visualization helps me a lot. You don't have to do that. It's really very simple. It's saying, okay, 10 years, 20 years from now, when I'm 60, when I'm 70, when I'm 40, it doesn't matter how old you are now, but in a few years, when I'm in that moment and I think about not making that decision, would I regret it? And you have to dig a little bit deep to your heart. Okay, it's leaving this part, bye-bye. You dig into your heart. How do you feel in that moment? That's going to be your answer. So this is also another technique that is going to help you to make decisions faster. And people who live in a constant state of emotional freedom are able to see themselves in the future, dig into that gut feel, and make the decisions fast. So I never get caught in the details of the how, the why, the who. I make the decisions and I figure out the details later. And this is how I started my talk about the book. That was exactly me in that moment. And I had known about the book for a couple of months, I'm going to say at least, or six weeks at least. And then I just kept skipping on that email. And I remember the last note from Linda to me, Shiri, the deadline, it's getting full, and I'm like, FOMO, okay, let's go, right? And I just, I put myself in that situation. How would I feel if I miss on this opportunity? Would I regret it? And it was immediate, yes. So if your vision, right, and here is where the vision come into play as well. So there's values, we talked about that, but vision, when you know what your vision is, what your mission is, you are going to able to see yourself in that future, achieving that vision. And so that feel of, okay, how am I going to feel in 10 years from now? Is that aligned with my vision? Yes, great. Because if you're not clear about your vision, what is it that you really want? What is your purpose in life? You might find yourself overwhelmed, right? When presented with an opportunity. And that's one of the reasons that we find ourselves not only unable to make decisions, but being overwhelmed, is because we're not clear about the purpose. We don't know if that opportunity aligns with our purpose and our vision, right? So values are important. Vision is very important, especially to feel it into the future. Mantra number 3. How are we with time? Good. So there are more than 24 hours in a day. Yes, that's not a typo. There are more than 24 hours in a day. I never knew that I've always lived my life in this timeless situation, right? Where I see a lot of people, because we're trained to compartmentalize time. We're trained to do that. I mean, we wear a watch, that's a compartment right there, right? When I started working, building Australia in my business, so different time zones, Australia and Latin America and Europe, that forced me to work outside of this 24-hour time frame. There were times that I was working in the future, which was really cool because people were telling me, oh, COVID is still a thing. I'm like, oh, darn, okay. And there were times that I was working in the past. So I was able to tell them, yeah, COVID is still a thing. So hang tight. And I realized, right, that thinking timelessly, if that's even a word, allows you and frees you from having to compartmentalize time. And it actually creates a lot of freedom to do things in different times, to not to get stressed out about timelines and deadlines. How many of you set deadlines, you don't meet them, you're like, oh, I didn't meet them, oh my God, it's it's 5 p.m. and I didn't get to do what my boss told me to do, and you think that time is over, the world ended. But it's not. You can make a 33-hour day, you can make a 9-hour day, right? When you understand that you actually control time and you're not limited by 24 hours, what happens right away, you're going to feel more empowered. You will. So I'm going to encourage you to shift that thinking and step away from 24 hours and set the time frame that you want, that works for you. And don't make yourself wrong for not achieving a deadline. That's just nonsense. There are no deadlines. You can still stretch time and achieve what you set yourself to achieve, right? Create a 6-hour time. And when you do that, by the way, you are going to be the most efficient and effective person. Because if you're still thinking an 8-hour work, 24-hour days, you get distracted by so many things. Create a 3-hour work day. And guess what happens? You have the rest of the day to be free and do whatever the heck you want. So I invite you to try that. The next mantra is, it's always the right time. I actually wanted to call this, it's never the right time, but Kelly said, no, it's a little bit too negative. So we changed it to, it's always the right time. But I really believe it's never the right time. Why do I say that? Because that's what I hear all the time. How many times, yes, by show of hands, and you can give me a thumbs up, you feel, no, it's never the right time. I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait because right now I have this and this and this. I'm going on vacation. So when I come back, you know what? I'm just taking this course right now. So in 6 months, I'll get it done. I'm just transitioned out of my job, but I will get promoted and I will this and I will wait and I will. Guess what? Unless you win the lottery, and even then, it will never be the right time. You will always be busy with 1,000 different things. So it's your decision and it's your obligation and responsibility to make it the right time. Do you think that it was the right time for me to get involved in this book? No, it wasn't. I already told you all the things that I was doing. It wasn't, Mary. I'm calling all of us out, Mary, because we can all relate to this. Right? But when you wait for the right time, you miss out on all these opportunities and all these great opportunities to learn and to grow and to thrive. Because this is what I've learned. I've learned that when I'm overwhelmed, yes, when I experience that intense sense of emotional freedom, right? Because being overwhelmed is experiencing an intense emotion. That's what it is, to feel overwhelmed. When I'm there, I'm operating in all cylinders, right? I'm firing on all cylinders. Yes, who can relate to that? When we're actually overwhelmed, it's not a coincidence that we say, give the busiest person something to do because she or he will get it done. You know why? Because people who are overwhelmed, like us, we're in a state of flow. And so you can always get yourself in that state of flow and stop getting yourself comfortable, right? So get yourself to be overwhelmed and stop telling yourself, oh, when the right time appears. It's never the right time. Next one is the Call Me Crazy. And this is what I called my podcast, actually. I called it Call Me Crazy, because this is something that I've heard always in my life. People telling me you're crazy. So when I decided actually to stay, well, my mom, backed me up in that decision. But when I say, I'm going to stay by myself, I'm 17, I don't care, I'm staying here. People thought I was crazy. My mom actually thought I was crazy. Yes. When I decided to step up and take a role that it was only given to men driving as, security at the airport, people thought, you're crazy. They're never going to let you do that. And I did it. When I told people that I was leaving Coca-Cola, great pay, great job, great benefit. Oh my God, did I ever hear you are crazy? And so at one point, very early on in my life, I understood that is a good sign. That's great. Like when people call me crazy, that is great, right? So I almost go for that. And that's part of me having my own filter. And I talk about this in my book, where I actually say that this superpower of being called crazy, of having a different filter, has served me very well, because it has given me the courage and tenacity to zig when everybody else is zagging. And it's allowed me to take risk. And then let me tell you, and I say this, actually, I'm very sad to say this, but in today's society, it is so easy to be extraordinary. It is easy to stand out because most people don't have the courage to zag when everybody's zigging. So if you want to be extraordinary, right? If you want to step outside of your comfort zone and be noticed, you can do it, because most people won't do it. They just won't have the courage, and they don't want to hear people calling them crazy. So go for it. So being called crazy is what motivates me and inspires me. And being called a trailblazer, a mentor, a leader is what gives me emotional freedom. So I'm going to end with the last part of just being the master of your lifestyle, because I am a master lifestyler. And when I wrote this, I'm always hoping I get to inspire people. That's part of my vision. I really want to touch positively. I want I want to impact positively everybody who I touch. I really want to change the world. I do. It might be, far-fetched, but I do. And my mantra is do it one person at a time, right? If it's the cashier at the supermarket, if it's the drive-through person that you put a smile on them, if it's the 30 minutes that I have here with you, great, right? So having that lifestyle that you want, it is achievable. Just be clear about what is it that you really want, and detach yourself from the results. That's something that I learned. And guys, was one of the hardest things for me to do, because I'm very result driven. I'm very hard on myself. I don't achieve something and I get disappointed. So detach yourself from the results, because when you do this, it is easier to maintain that emotional balance and that equanimity, right? So I adopted this, what I call the great reaction, So no matter what, I say to myself, great. So I got a new client, great. I lost the game, great. I lost money on a deal, great. So that simple word is so powerful, and it really allows me to maintain and achieve that flow, that equanimity, because no matter what, everything is great. So I'm going to end with one wish. I have one wish for you. I wish for you to find that courage. Find the courage to decide that you're going to do it your way. And that is scary, but you have to be brave. And to be brave, you need to find emotional freedom. Thank you, guys. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I know there's a lot of comments on the chat. I have not seen them all, so let me just get to that. I don't know, Kelly, if you can help me if there's any questions.
There's just lots of praise. We are all just feeling your energy and loving this right now. And obviously I've read your chapter, we've talked about it, but hearing you speak it and this great reaction is part of the great leadership awakening. It's so good. I'm like, the rest of this, like whatever happens, great, 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 great. It's great. Thank you, Shiri. This has been amazing.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. And I love you all, ladies. Thank you for your support and your motivation. And I can't wait to meet all of you in person. Thank you. Thank you, Linda, for this opportunity. Kaylee, thank you for putting it all together. Appreciate that.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.